this episode of the Nature's Living Show, Naked State Part 1.
This episode of the Nature's Living Show is brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bear Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bearoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 85 of the Nature's Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschênes. I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park, where this summer we had another fabulous event for the first time that we're going to keep repeating. As I said in the last show, it was a great summer. A lot of firsts. You heard in one of the episodes all the projects we were doing in the spring with the new gate and a new access system and a new payment methods. But most of that is practical, operational. It doesn't necessarily influence the members and the visitors and the guests. But we had a lot of new events, and we continued our existing events that were very popular. One of the things, though, that I've always wanted to do is encourage more arts. And we've had great art development at Bear Oaks. We've had, there's a group called the Bear Oaks Players that put on plays, and they have a lot of fun. And they do some neat stuff. There is some other folks who put on regular poetry readings, for example. We've had people perform all kinds of instruments and other acrobatics and fire spinning and all kinds of fun stuff. And so I love art because any kind of society that isn't really a culture or a society until it has arts. And artists are great in challenging the status quo, which is what we're doing with naturism, and communicating ideas. Their whole world is about communication and challenging people to think. And so I wanted to find out how I could encourage artists to come to Bear Oaks. And some do, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking, how can I formalize that? Artist in residence program or something, or maybe invite a group of artists, but I wasn't sure how to reach them and how to communicate with them. And I had so many things going on that it was kept being an idea that I was doing nothing about. Except last summer, a woman who had stayed at Bear Oaks, I don't know if it was her first visit or whether she'd had a few visits, but she really loved the place, and I can't blame her, of course, and as many people do. But she really loved the place, and she approached me. Her name is Teresa Ascencao, and she approached me to ask me if I would consider hosting an artist's residency. So I wasn't sure what that was. I know what an artist in residence is, so I thought maybe that was similar to it. So she explained that what she does through her organization called Arts Unfold is she organizes these residencies. It's an intense week or 2-week period where artists come and live in a place and work in a place, and they collaborate and they share and they learn and they get inspired. And she thought that Bear Oaks being such a unique environment that it would work really well here, and because they would really be challenged. Most of them would probably not be naturists, of course. So I agreed, and of course I agreed. I was excited about it. I said, okay, so here's a person who's going to organize exactly what I've dreamed of having for years now. And so we worked together, and she did most of the work and put it together. And I supported her, and my staff supported her. And she put out the call, and she had a lot of applications. Seems like it was more successful than some of the other ones she's done in the beginning. And we've had people from as far as Australia and as close as Aurora, which is just a few kilometers away, but from the UK, from the Scandinavian country, I forget which ones, from all over. And you'll hear from those artists because I talk to them as well. But first, I sat down after this very successful program with Teresa so we could chat a little bit more about it, and you could learn all about what we did.
is Teresa Ascencao, and I'm primarily a multimedia artist whose work deals with the human body, both inner and outer experiences.
You also have an organization called Arts Unfold, through which you do several arts residencies, right? How long have you been doing that?
I've only really done one art residency called Luminous Bodies on Toronto Island at Artscape Gibraltar Point for the last 4 years. And I got really excited about the idea of doing an additional one when I was here at Bare Oaks last year in 2015. And that's when I approached you. So now I have 2 that I've actually run, but there is now a 3rd that I've been invited to do on the island of Pico in the Azores, which are a group of islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, on the theme of water, which I can maybe talk about after, but there are 3 now.
And so what is an art residency?
An art residency is an opportunity for artists to focus on their practice and create art away from their regular everyday life. So some of the art residencies are thematic. Others are not. Others are independent, and artists will take off and go to an art space and work for 2 weeks to 3 months and sometimes more, just by themselves to focus on what their work is about. But in some cases, residencies are thematic or programmed, like the one here at Bare Oaks that Arts Unfold produced, whereby we did a residency that artists are, kind of inviting artists that are already working around the theme of the human body to come and explore what the nude body is in context of art, culture, and nature. So there's a choice, and they're all over the world. Usually the people that run them are people in the arts or artists and arts administrators. And so for myself, in this case, I'm a multimedia artist, but I'm also a teacher at OCAD University. And I love facilitating and, themes such as this one around the nude body.
So what was it about your visit to Bare Oaks that made you think or inspired you to create an art residency here?
I love that question, Stefan. It's a bigger question for me because I came to naturism after a long struggle around accepting my body and letting go of a lot of shame and violence actually that happened was imposed onto it. So it happened at Bare Oaks, where I thought of the residency, but prior to that, it was at Hanlan's, where I did a lot of healing at Hanlan's Beach on Toronto Island for a period of 7 years, which got me to naturism. But to be specific about Bare Oaks, I was here sitting on the sand at Beemore Lake, and it's a wonderful opportunity to, when you come to Bare Oaks, to be able to reflect upon many things, to be amongst nature and be yourself, which is the perfect breeding ground for questioning and asking. And so what happened really on the sand was I started realizing an integration of who I was, which is my creative acts of making art together with naturism. And I also looked at a lot of the opportunities that Bare Oaks has to offer that could potentially offer to artists, because there is accommodation here and there's inspiration here. And I thought, well, wow, maybe I could run an art residency here, and that's what got me to contact you.
So you put together a program which is called Naked State, and you put it out there, and what was the reaction? What kind of responses did you get?
You mean the artist community, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was interesting because I actually didn't know what was going to come back to us. I put a call out asking for artists who might be interested in working with the theme of the nude body in context of art, nature, and culture. One of them aging, another one on the long lineage of Christianity's shame of the body within, in context of the Garden of Eden, There were other artists who were interested in exploring materials such as latex, and they consider themselves sculptors.
As far as you know, has anybody else created this kind of art residency before?
in terms of an art residency that explores naturism or the nude body, not that I know of. I did a little bit of research at the beginning, but I haven't found any like it at all.
So was the reaction more or less than you expected?
I think more for that, if I'm correct, that there is not another art residency doing this. I think that it really perked a lot of interest in artists' minds, even if they were not necessarily working with the nude body. For the most part, none of them were. Not none, but for the most part, most of them were not. But at the same time, I had reactions from artists who knew me and said, they thought it was a gimmick, right? And I said, no, it's a very serious topic, and none of it is a gimmick at all. I'm not trying to be sensationalist at all about inviting artists to come and do work to explore this theme. And I explained why.
And you actually had, artists came from as far away as Australia. I mean, and very close and very, very far away. Is that typical of the other art residency you do?
Yes, not just my own, but usually art residencies invite people from all over the world to explore, their own work in independent residencies or thematic ones. So, but it's always still something I don't take for granted, and I appreciate it. It's an incredible experience to have people from Finland, which we had, as well as England and Australia, across the United States and Canada, to come together, get to know each other quite intensely over a period of 10 days to through the process of exploring this theme.
But most residencies, or at least the other residency you do, is very insular. This was different because it involved a community. How did that work?
Yeah, that was, in all honesty, something that I had not done. So there are obvious fears. How can this work? And so, being the first time around, and being positive and looking at all the great things that came out of it, I think it was a success. I know firsthand the feedback I received from the artists were that it was a transformative experience I kept hearing over and over for their practice, but also on a personal level and for myself. But that doesn't come without challenges, of course. Running a residency in a community for the first time, there's going to be a lot of learning, a lot of compromising. And so, which takes me to the place of, if I was to do it again, which I want to, I am now better equipped and I could only be better.
Do you think that we got some interesting work out of this residency? Do you think that it generated more or less creativity than you've seen in the past?
In other art residencies?
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes. There is a slight more creativity, I think, that came out of being first in a naturist community, second integrated into a community, because it threw in more factors. It threw in more things for artists to play with and challenge them. So I think the answer would be yes.
So do you think you're expecting even more applications next year?
I actually do think so, predominantly for the reason that I think the word gets out, and it takes time to build a project and to create a momentum. And so I do expect more. As it was, we were only able to accept half of the applicants. I shouldn't say it that way. I actually, what I mean is that only half of the applicants, either we were able to accept or were able to make it in. And so for next year, it's possible that that's going to grow.
So that makes it hard. I mean, you have to decide who's in and who's out.
Yeah, and the way that I know you were part of it, the way that we did it was basically sit down together, make sure that this was going to be appropriate both for the artists and the community, that it would make sense. So it was based on the quality of the work, the proposal that they made, that it was fitting for the theme of creating art in context of nature, looking at the human body in context of art, nature and culture, but also that the artists who proposed were serious, that they weren't just going to come here for a holiday, right? So those were the criteria that I believe we used. So
any concern that when you say no to an artist that they may be upset and that might hurt you in the artistic community?
No, I think that artists are quite used to the fact that it's competitive. And I know myself, I get rejected probably to 95% of the things that I apply to, whether they be exhibitions or residencies, festivals. It's highly competitive. So I think artists understand that.
How do you think the community of Bear Oaks, the members and visitors reacted to all this?
There were mixed reactions from what I could tell. I haven't gotten the full picture of it yet. But of what I heard through the artists or directly from the people here who were visiting Bear Oaks, there were people who were curious. There were people who were appreciative of the work and came and saw it and took in some, divulged some time to take it in. And there were people who were surprised and perhaps even a little thrown off by some of the content. But that's the nature of art. As an artist myself, I can speak to the purpose of art is artists generally feel that they are, people who question rules, who question, I would say rules is a perfect choice of saying that, expressing that. Really just to question the things that we're told the way the world is supposed to be. And I mean, as naturists ourselves, we understand that, right? We've come to a point where we've questioned why it is that the human body constantly is shamed and told that it's inappropriate. So artists in that way are doing the same thing with different topics.
Well, some of the art was very easy for people to understand, fairly traditional, but some of it was described by some of our members as just plain weird. So what makes it art? What is art? That's what they asked me.
That's a great question, Stefan. I have my opinion, but there are different ways of answering that question. For me, art is something that moves people, whether it be in a positive or in a jolting or in a negative way sometimes. Artists do have some control to a certain extent, but art ultimately is about putting out into the universe a reflection or an expression of what our world is. And sometimes when you let things loose for other people to experience, it can have many interpretations. And we want that as artists. We want many interpretations. We don't want to own the only interpretation. We need an audience for art to exist. Art does not exist without a receptor, So, in that comes a full bag of lots of possibilities of how art is interpreted. So, but ultimately, for me, it's something that is powerful enough, and it doesn't even have to be intentionally, made to be art. It could be, you go somewhere and you actually, I have a perfect example of this. I was at Hanlon's Beach, and there was this gentleman who came into the beach, had read about the clothing optional beach, he's a truck driver, because I talked to him, and he decided that he wanted to go into the water. He came prepared with all these uniforms, like a suitcase full of vintage clothing he had purchased, like business suits mostly. And he went into the water with his shoes and all. And people were just blown away, and they're like, who is this guy? Why is he doing this? Some people thought he was actually going to commit suicide. And other people were just intrigued, and they started asking him, why are you doing this? And his last thing that he did was he took it all off and he went into the water nude. And so my question was, which I was fascinated as an artist, is why can't that be art? He made so many people think that day. Like, why is he doing this? Why clothing in the water? What is the meaning of a business suit in water? And the way I interpreted it as art, I called it art, was a businessman being reborn, like a baptism, and using water, which is known often as an element of purification, for him to just come and experience this for the first time. So my little tidbit about that, I can ramble on about it. I think I've gone on a little bit too long about it, but I think art is something that moves people to think or feel. Yeah.
That's actually a very interesting answer. And there was lots of interesting art. Some of it, though, very ephemeral because it was performance and we'll never see it again, except for maybe pictures that were taken. The people listening to the podcast, some of them are very far away. Will they be able to see some of the art that was produced here?
I'm hoping to get a little bit more up on the website than there is already. Right now, if people visit nakedstate.ca, they can go on a page under media and find documents of the artists working in their studios while their work was in progress. But there's another page under media also that shows a document of the works that were here on the day of the exhibition. I'm hoping to be able to get some videos by a couple of the artists that were produced. And one of them is actually really quite wonderful. It's a video by Kelly Hamon, who she interviews a lot of the people here, I think it was the artists actually, in the swimming pool at Bear Oaks, asking them when the first memory of them being nude or naked was. And she splices it all together. It's really poetic, and everybody's floating in this blue turquoise liquid. So it's about naturism, that one particular video. And that I hope to get up on the website.
Well, that's it for part 1 of Naked State, because now you've just heard about the organization and what we did and what the ideas were, and you heard from Teresa. But I also interviewed all of the artists that were there, and so I'm going to, in part 2, it would be too much for one episode, so in part 2, you're going to get to hear what it was like for each one of them while they were participating in this residency. So for now, that's all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you for listening. You can find links to all of the items I mentioned in the show notes on the website, which is at naturistliving.bearoaks.ca. Please keep sending your comments and your suggestion. The email address is naturistliving, one word again, at bearoaks.ca, because we are in Canada. You can also call and leave a comment. Take as many chances as you want and delete it if you don't like it at the end, but would love to hear from you and maybe even put your voice on the show. You can either dial country code 1-905-473-6060, toll free if you're in North America, 1-888-373-9124, or Skype Bear Oaks, Beareoaks, one word. And in all cases, you get into the main Bear Oaks automated phone system, and you dial extension 333 for the Naturist Living Show mailbox. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.